But I will tell you, if you've identified a few or more of these things on this list, it's a bad house. You know, you can spot a bad house in about 60 seconds.
A simple cream could really lighten things up. You could even put in a skylight.
In today's video, I'm going to share with you my checklist, my process of what I look for when I am previewing homes with my clients to help identify a bad house. I get questions all the time from first-time buyers. What exactly am I looking for when I'm looking at a home? Well, I'm going to tell you, that's what this video is all about. So if you're in the process of buying a home, or you're thinking about buying a home and you need that question answered, stick around. I'm going to show you what to look for. So let's get into it, okay? Stick with me here. Then you got to visualize this. As we pull up to a home, the first thing I'm looking at is I'm checking out the neighborhood. I'm checking out the location. I'm checking out the street. How is the parking? And what about the driveway? Is the driveway large enough to fit several cars? Many of my clients love to entertain, right? They're going to have family over for holidays and parties and barbecues and all those things. We want to make sure that there's going to be plenty of parking. What I'm also looking at is it close to a major thoroughfare? Is the property close to any highways? Does the property back up to, say, a shopping center? Does it back up to an office building, a warehouse, what have you? Those are the things we are looking for. I am also looking at the neighbors too. I'm looking at their yards and seeing, what's going on. If I see that the neighbor's yard isn't well maintained, that could potentially be an issue that you don't want to deal with down the road, arguing with your neighbor to get him to clean up his yard. Next, we're going to be looking at the roof. As I approach the home, I always look up at the roof. I'm looking to see if there's moss, if there's any buckling in the roof, if there's missing shingles. Are there tree branches touching the roof? How close are the trees to the home? That's another big thing. Here in North Jersey, there are trees galore. There could be many trees really close to a house. That's another thing I'm looking at because that's a big ticket item. It's very expensive to take trees down. Next, as I walk around the perimeter of the home, we're looking at the exterior foundation, and I'm looking for cracks, right? You've heard me talk about foundation cracks before. We're looking for any step cracks or horizontal cracks and vertical cracks. Now, vertical cracks, they're not as serious as long as they are smaller than 1/8 of an inch. If they're wider than 1/4 of an inch, then you got a problem. Even if those cracks were patched up, I'm making a mental note of that because that tells me there could have been a potential issue there before and the seller had addressed it, but they patched it up. I want to know what happened there. Now, as we're going through the yard, and this is really only if, say, it had rained heavily prior to the showing. If I find that there's a lot of pooling of water in like one area of the yard, or if it's pooling like in an area close to the house, that could be a sign of a drainage issue. So that I'm looking for as well. But I mean, that's only easy to observe if it had rained heavily prior to us seeing the home. If the home has a pool, I'm going to be looking at the coping. I'm looking at the decking. Is there any cracks? I'm looking at the liner of the pool. And you can tell when a liner is older on a pool. If I see that liner is on the older side, that's a big ticket item. That's going to be super expensive. I'm going to observe the pool equipment. How is that looking? Is that on the older side? That could be something that needs to be replaced. Now let's enter the home. We enter the home through the front door. What's the first thing I always look at? My colleagues laugh at me, but I'm sorry. I look at the floors. I'll walk in, I see, look at the entryway, and first thing, what do the floors look like? Floors can be very expensive when you have to replace them. So first thing I'm looking at are the hardwood floors. If there's any damage, so if you see black stains, any water damage, or if there's softening or even like holes in the wood, yeah, that's going to need to be replaced. Next, let's talk about the tile floors. I'm talking marble, porcelain, ceramic tiles. If there are cracks, many cracks or broken tiles, this is going to be a big, expensive item. Several years ago, I'll never forget this one. I took clients to go look at a home, and they had ceramic tile from the front door down a long hallway leading to the kitchen and family room is all the same tile. There were so many broken tiles from the front door into the kitchen. That would have been the first thing I would have replaced if I was buying that house. And I told my clients, it's one thing if it was hardwood. Hardwood, you could probably replace like a section, or you can just simply refinish hardwood floors. But when you're dealing with tile that's broken and you want to take that up, speaking from experience, because I did it in my own house, it is so expensive to remove. So this is why I look at floors as soon as I walk into a house. From there, I'm going to be looking up at the walls. I'm looking at the ceiling. I'm looking for water stains. I'm looking to see if there's any patch jobs in the ceiling. I'm also looking for cracks in the ceilings and on the walls. Now, again, minor cracks are normal from settling. And people freak out sometimes when they see a crack in the wall and they think, oh my God, there's a structure problem. Not so fast. It could just be simple settling, but we are going to be looking for any bigger cracks on the walls and in the ceilings. Next, we're looking at the windows. We're going to see if they are single pane or double pane windows, if they're older windows, if they're hard to open and close. That's your sign right there. This isn't a good house because you're going to have to replace the windows. It's very expensive to replace windows. If you haven't done it, I can tell you it's a lot of money. It's a lot. If the home has a fireplace, we're going to observe to see if it's a gas fireplace or wood burning. If it's wood burning, you should be able to tell whether or not that fireplace has been used, if it's actively being used. If it's not, that's your sign. If you're going to make an offer on a house and you're going to be purchasing it, you're definitely going to want to have a chimney inspection done. My experience, when people do not use their fireplaces for years on end, moisture does settle inside the chimney and it impacts the liner and can damage the liner, and then you would need a new one. Now, going back to outside, I did forget to mention that was one of the other things that we look at on the outside too. I'm looking at the chimneys to see if there's any missing mortar, if there's missing bricks. Is the chimney leaning? These are important things we need to look at. That's a big problem right there, especially a leaning chimney. Okay, another big thing we're going to be looking at is the electrical panel. We want to know, what is the amperage? What's the condition? Is it older? Does it need to be upgraded? You can tell pretty easily if an electric panel needs to be upgraded. Is it overloaded? I've seen electric panels where there is just like a ton of stuff, like wires coming out of it. Believe me, I've seen houses like this where I'm like, what in the heck are they running into this electric panel? That's a big red flag too. Now let's talk about the furnace, the AC, and the water heater. The furnace, we're going to see the condition it's in. Now, it could be on the older side, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. As long as the furnace has been maintained, furnaces can last a fairly long time. But what we're looking for is corrosion. Is there any corrosion on the valves to the furnace? Is there any corrosion on the pipes leading into the furnace? Is it looking rusted and kind of gross and definitely not maintained? That is super important. That's a sign of like hardly any maintenance or service done to that furnace. Water heater, this is another one. The first thing I look for is the date that the water heater was installed. If it was installed within the last 10 to 12 years, then we're in good shape. Water heaters only last about 10 to 12 years. So if it's a water heater that's already at the end of its life, I can guarantee you're going to be replacing your water heater once you buy that house, and you're looking at a few $1,000s. Now let's talk about the central air. The air handlers for the central air are typically located in the attic. But how do we know that an AC is on the older side? I check the condition of the condensers that are on the outside of the house. If it's rusted, they're looking really weathered, that's a sign it's a much older unit, and that's something you're going to need to replace in a few years, if not sooner. As I'm going through the rest of the house, I'm also looking to see if there was any work done, any cosmetic work done. You know where I'm going with this. Sometimes homeowners like to just DIY. They like to repair or replace things themselves, which is totally fine. I'm in support of that. But if the workmanship looks shoddy and sloppy, the tile's uneven, the vanity's not fully attached to the wall, things like that, that's a problem. So that's something you're going to have to take on yourself and like re-gut that bathroom and redo it all yourself. I'm also going to be looking underneath the sinks in the bathrooms and in the kitchen. We want to see if there are any leaks and if there's any mold. Speaking of mold, if the home has a basement, and especially if it's an unfinished basement, we are going to be looking for moisture. This is so super important. If there's a dehumidifier or multiple dehumidifiers in the basement, what does that tell you? There's moisture down there. Now, I'm not saying that the basement definitely took on water. I mean, there are some basements where, yeah, it does get musty, especially in the humid months. I understand that. But if dehumidifiers are running, there's multiple ones, it's a possibility there could have been water in there. And another way we can look for water is if there are lines on the walls, say like 6 inches, even less, a few inches up to like a foot or higher. If you see a line along the wall, that tells you right there that there was water in that basement at one time. Now, this only applies to unfinished basement. Now, if you have a finished basement and the walls have been sheetrocked, it's going to be hard to tell if there was moisture there. So again, this really applies to those unfinished basements. It'll be easier to spot any water damage. And let's get back to the whole foundation cracks that we saw on the exterior. We're going to be looking for cracks again in the basement. Are there any cracks such as step cracks, horizontal or vertical cracks? If there are, that's a sign that soil is pushing against the foundation, the soil shifting, and it's causing problems with the structure. Now, keep in mind, you can be looking for these things, but your real estate agent really should be looking at these as well. And a really good agent will know to look for these things. And if you need to be connected to a real estate agent, if you're thinking about buying a home in your market, you can click that link down below or scan this QR code, fill out the form, and I'll get back to you with an agent in your market. Now, keep in mind, this does not give you the permission to waive your home inspection. All right. You go through this list and you've identified some of these things. You didn't identify any of these things and you figure, okay, you know what? I'm going to make my offer really strong. I'll just waive the inspection because I looked at all this stuff. No, you still need to hire a home inspector and do a home inspection. Okay. There, I said it. I'm always going to tell you that. Don't waive your home inspection. Now, let's talk about those seller's disclosures. Now, what a lot of people will do, they want to review the seller's disclosures because the seller is supposed to give honest information about the home, whether there were any repairs, any damage, what have you. If the home did take on water, they're supposed to be putting all of that information into seller's disclosure. Newsflash, seller's disclosures are not 100% accurate. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but not every seller is going to be honest. So do not rely on the seller's disclosure 100%. Now, myself, before I go look at a home, if the seller's disclosure is available, I will look at it prior to looking at the home to see if there was anything glaring on the seller's disclosure that we need to be looking at when we're previewing the home. But again, do not rely on that 100%. If any of these items come up or anything comes up when you're previewing a home, and it's not indicated on the seller's disclosure, you really should have your real estate agent go back to the listing agent and ask questions about the things that you have observed. But I would tell you, if you've identified a few or more of these things on this list, it's a bad house.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, always remember, this isn't about finding the perfect home. It's about avoiding a money pit. So I want to know, tell me in the comments, have you seen any of the things that I've mentioned here in my checklist? Or is there something else that you saw that was like a big red flag and you ended up not buying a house? I want to know about it. Tell me, drop it in the comments. So even if you have identified some of these problems and you still want to proceed with buying the house, fine. That's totally fine. That's up to you. But make sure you hire a good home inspector. And if you want to know what the 10 deal breakers are that are found in home inspections, you can watch this video right here. Thank you so much for watching me today to get your dose of real estate reality. My name is Jackie Baker, and I will see you next time.